This is Becoming UnDone.
I want you to think back to the last time you poured everything you had into somebody and you watched it go nowhere, or worse. Maybe it was a player, a student, a kid of your own, someone who came to you asking for help, asking for direction, asking for somebody to believe in them, and then they turned around and did the exact opposite of everything that you offered. I want you to think about what that felt like. Because if you've ever led people or taught people or coached people or loved people, you know that feeling. You know the guilt that comes with it. That quiet voice that says, if you just said it differently, if you just tried a little harder, if you had just been better. That's what we're talking about today. And I promise you, by the end of this episode, you're going to see that situation and hopefully even yourself a little bit differently. Now's as good a time as any to say that I'm Dr. Toby Brooks, a professor, author, speaker, and performance scientist. I spent much of the last 20 years working as an athletic trainer and a strength coach, working with athletes from the professional levels all the way down to high school and all points in between. And today I focus on high achievers of all kinds. I study them, I interview them, I observe them to learn about what makes them different, and seeing firsthand how failures and setbacks that would destroy most actually set them up for their biggest successes. Each week here on Becoming UnDone, I bring you a new guest where we talk about how that unraveling can be a prerequisite to the best buildups and the most massive successes. But every so often on Word to the Third, I bring you a solo episode where I reflect, reprocess, and recommit to talking about what we've learned from them and to get better ourselves. And today, we're talking about the fourth quarter. A few weeks ago, I sat down with Chris McCormick on this show. Chris is a former D1 strength coach. He's now the pastor at Reliant Church. And something he said's been kind of rattling around in my head ever since. He said, pressure's going to expose what's forming you. Go back and listen to that episode if you haven't. I promise you it's worth your time. But what I keep coming back to isn't the pressure part. It's the forming part. Because here's a guy who spent years doing what I spent doing in a lot of ways. He poured himself into people. He invested. He was trying to make somebody better than they currently were. And somewhere along the way, he found out what most of us who work with people eventually find out. You can want growth for somebody more than they want it for themselves. Now, I want to be honest with you about something because I think it might be the most useful thing I could say today. For most of my adult life, 30 plus years of teaching and coaching and leading and mentoring, I've carried guilt over the people that I couldn't reach. Not a little guilt, real guilt, the kind that sits with you at night, the kind that makes you replay conversations and wonder what you said wrong, the kind that has you questioning your effectiveness as a leader, as a teacher, as a human, every time somebody doesn't respond the way you hoped that they would. I've had athletes with every physical gift imaginable who refused to do the work. And I've had students who were the smartest people in the room, but they were completely unwilling to apply it. I've had people come to me asking for help, asking for guidance, asking for someone to believe in them. And then they systematically ignore everything I offered. And for a long time, my default was to assume that that meant I had failed. I wore it myself like it was my fault. What I didn't have then was a framework for understanding what was actually happening. Until Chris mentioned the idea of the fourth quarter in our conversation. I went back to a story I've heard 100 times, and I finally paid attention to the right character. It's a parable. In Matthew chapter 13, Jesus tells a story about a farmer who goes out to scatter seed. Now stick with me here. Even if you're not a person of faith, I think there's something in this that applies regardless of where you land spiritually. This is as much an observation about human nature as it is a theological statement. So the farmer scatters the seed, right? Some of it lands on a hardened path. Birds come and they take it before it ever has a chance. It's gone. These are your no-shows. Some of it lands on rocky ground. It sprouts fast. It looks promising, but there's no depth to the soil. The roots never take hold. When things get difficult, it withers. Those are your quitters. They showed up, but they don't last. And then some of it falls into the thorns. It starts to grow, but eventually the competing plants choke it out. It never produces anything. These are the folks who get distracted or lured off course. And then some of it lands in good soil. And that seed produces a harvest. 30, 60, 100 times what was planted. This is the group we do it all for. The ones who get it. The ones who get you. The fourth quarter. Your fourth quarter. Now here's what I want you to notice. 3 out of 4 didn't even make it. 75% of the seed in this story produces 0 harvest. And Jesus tells it like that's just the deal. There's no hand wringing, no apology, no moment where the farmer sits down and questions his entire career like I did. The farmer isn't in therapy over the rocky ground. This is not an existential crisis. He's just farming. So let's talk about this farmer. For years when I heard this story, my focus was always on the soil. Which kind of soil are you? What kind of environment are you cultivating for your students, for your athletes, for your friends, for those you're serving? Are you receptive? Are you shallow? Are you distracted? Are you the good soil? And these are all great questions, right? But they're not the questions that have been wrecking me lately. Lately, I can't stop thinking about the farmer. Because I think most of us who pour into people, whether you're a teacher or a coach or a parent, a leader, a mentor of any type, we spend our lives trying to do a job that belongs to the soil. We think if we can find the right words, the right moment, the right resource, the right approach, we can make that seed grow in ground, even if it isn't ready to receive it. And when it doesn't grow, we decide that we're the reason for the failure. But look at what the farmer actually controls. He doesn't control where every seed lands. He doesn't control the weather. He doesn't control how deep the roots grow. He doesn't control whether or not weeds emerge. He sure as heck doesn't control the birds. His responsibility begins and ends with faithfully scattering the seed. That's it. That's the whole thing. Show up, scatter seed, trust the process. And the harvest? The harvest isn't his to manufacture either. His job is just to be faithful with what he can control and let go of what he can't. Hey, quick break here before we get to the close. I want to tell you about something that I think is genuinely going to help you. I've put together what I'm calling the State of Your Life Survey. It's a totally free assessment tool. It takes just a few minutes to complete. And it'll give you a real, honest look at where you actually are across key domains of your life. Not where you think you are, not where you want to be, but where you actually are right now. Here's the thing, you can't farm ground you haven't mapped. And a lot of us are just out here scattering seed without ever stopping to look at the soil right under our own feet. So when you complete the survey, I'll send you a free, personalized, in-depth assessment report specific to your results, your situation, your life. Just head to tobybrooksphd.com/assessment. I'll put the link in the show notes. Go do it. It's free. It's fast. Might be the most clarifying 10 minutes you spend this whole week. All right, back to it. The freedom. Here's what hit me when I really sat with this. The farmer in the story doesn't lament the first 3 quarters. I told you, I spent years of my life wringing my hands, worrying, wondering. And I think that's all good. Like on the surface, it's good. I want to be compassionate. I want to have a heart for those people. But what they do with what I give is not my responsibility. The farmer doesn't spend the rest of his harvest season mourning the seeds that the bird took. He's not up all night replaying the rocky ground. He's not writing in his journal about all the seeds he lost to the thorns. He's celebrating the fourth quarter. And here's the cool thing. My fourth quarter isn't yours. Yours isn't mine. All that I've been through, all the crap, all the great things, all the things in between, they've prepared me for my fourth quarter. All the stuff you've been through, they've prepared you for yours. So I want to ask you something, and I'm asking myself this right now too. Can we learn to live that way? Can I be so genuinely, deeply grateful for my fourth quarter? The people who were ready, the lives that were changed, the seeds that landed in good soil, that the other 3 quarters stop defining how I feel about the work. This has happened to me more times than I can count. I get these course evaluations back, and there's 19 glowing ones, and there's one terrible one, and I obsess over that one that I missed. Now, that's not a license for me to just mail it in and do whatever kind of job. But this has freed me up. It's made me realize that I'm not here for everybody. I'm here for my fourth quarter. Because here's the truth. I have a fourth quarter. I have people who are walking differently today because of a conversation we had. I've got former students who tell me things that I said to them years ago that still matter. I've got athletes who check in, who send messages, who say, you changed my life. That's not me patting myself on the back. That's me recognizing the impact that I've made. And I want you to do the exact same. Because I would almost guarantee you that the people you're thinking of, I probably don't even know. And even if I do, they're not reaching out to me the same way they're reaching out to you. That's real. That's the harvest. I'm willing to bet that that would make a difference in your life too, if you let it. But I've let myself be so consumed by the seeds that didn't grow that I've sometimes missed the miracle of the ones that did. And I don't think I'm alone in that either. So if you've spent any time leading, teaching, parenting, coaching, all those things, if you've ever poured yourself into someone and watched them walk away unchanged, I want to offer you something today. Something to consider. Something to hold. You are not responsible for outcomes that were never yours to control. Not everybody's ready for what you're offering. Not because you failed, not because you said it wrong, not because you weren't enough, but because readiness isn't something we can just manufacture in somebody else's heart. People change when they're ready to change, and they grow when they're willing to grow, and they listen when they're prepared to listen. So I want you to come with passion. I want you to bring energy. I want you to be the most successful version of yourself that you can be. But no amount of passion on your part can create that readiness in somebody else. Trust me, if I could do it, teachers would never have struggling students. Coaches would never have underachieving athletes. Parents would never lose sleep over their kids. Leaders wouldn't be frustrated by talented people who refuse to reach their potential. The reality is, some soil just isn't meant for us. It's just not ready. Maybe it will be someday. Maybe it won't. But that's not ours to carry. So the title of this episode is The Fourth Quarter, and here's why. I think a lot of us are so focused on the first three soils that we've forgotten why we started farming in the first place. We obsess over the people who don't listen, the investments of time and energy and resources that went nowhere, the conversations that seemed to change nothing, the relationships that disappointed us, the seeds that never grew. But man, this is the cool part. The harvest isn't there. My harvest is in the fourth quarter. Yours is in the fourth quarter. The good soil, the people who were ready, the lives that were changed because you kept showing up, even when it felt like nothing was working. So here's my challenge to you today, and it's one I'm taking myself. Stop measuring your success by the first three quarters and start celebrating the heck out of your fourth. Be the farmer, scatter the seed, and let go of the outcome. And if you become so discouraged by everything that didn't grow that you're thinking about walking away from the field, don't. Because somewhere out there right now is someone in good soil who needs exactly what you, and maybe only you, have been called and prepared to give them. If you quit in the third quarter, you'll never get to see what waits in the fourth. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Be sure to check it out on the web. Head to undonepodcast.com/EP158 to find the images, links, and other stuff related to this week's show. Some quick updates about the show. If you want to see how we're doing, check out the rankings for yourself. You can go to undonepodcast.com/rankings. Cheer me on. If you'd be so kind to share the show with a friend, leave a comment, review, that will be really helpful. We crept back into the top 200 this week, so that's pretty cool. Kind of flirted with 5th and 6th in self-improvement and education, so that was good too. This week's teal of the week is the Tahoe Night Monsters of the ECHL. They're one of the newest franchises in pro hockey, which means they're still building their traditions. Meanwhile, I've apparently built one of my own, collecting teal-themed sports gear from teams all over the country. Why, you might ask? Well, I've long believed that performance is influenced by our environment, and whenever possible, I like to put myself in my best case. So for reasons I can't fully explain, my preferred performance environment always includes teal. Maybe it's branding. Maybe it's habit. Maybe it's autism. The jury is still out. But in the meanwhile, I'm still rocking a new super cool Tahoe Night Monsters hoodie. And that's good enough for me. Thanks for helping me show up in my happy place. Coming up on the show, I'm excited about a conversation I've recorded with Dre Baldwin. Dre's a former 9-year pro basketball player who walked on at an NCAA Division III school and pieced together a career that took him through 8 countries. He's since built an entire brand and business around the mental game. 27 books, 4 TEDx talks, and a daily podcast called Work on Your Game. It's been downloaded more than 3 million times. If you want to talk about somebody who's figured out how to keep scattering seed regardless of outcome, Dre's that guy. That episode coming next. After that, I sat down with Dr. Tyler Lesher, better known on social media as Dr. T. Lesh, former athletic trainer at UCLA with the men's basketball team, former strength coach and performance specialist in the NBA and the G League. He now works in private practice for NBA athletes. Tyler's one of the sharpest minds I've come across at the intersection of physical performance and human development, and I can't wait to bring that conversation to you. Becoming Undone is a Nitro Hype creative production written and produced by me, Toby Brooks. Intro and outro music by Mark Payne. Post-production assistance from Decipher and analytics support from Mopod. Tell a friend about the show. Follow along on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Becoming Undone Pod. And follow me at Toby Brooks, PhD on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Check out my link tree at linktr.ee/Toby Brooks, PhD. Listen, subscribe, and leave me a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. Till next time, keep getting better.